All right, so page 81, we're talking about something called ER and IR verbs. In order to do that, we're going to take a moment to review AR verbs. So is somebody able to tell me what an AR verb is exactly? Anyone? Even an example. What is an example of an AR verb? It's not a kind of black rifle. That's an AR-15. AR verb. What? Gustav. Good. So Gustav, any AR verb is a verb that in the infinitive form ends in AR. So it's that simple. All right. Now that's important because that's the section of a word that we replace when we conjugate it, right? So this is the infinitive, and it means to something. An infinitive is to something. So in this case, to please. Now, once we change it from an infinitive and we do something called conjugation, we conjugate it, we are taking this part and replacing it with one of 6 different endings. All right? So, and this is in the present tense. Right? So, currently, now, present tense, indicative. Indicative is like simply indicating, right? I'm not commanding, I'm not questioning, I'm not saying it could be or would be or should be, none of that. It's simply, it is as it is. That's indication, right? So these endings, o, as, a, amos, ais, an, are the endings, the suffixes that we use to replace the AR. So we'll put gusto means I please. Gusta, the one we most often use. Gusta means he or she or it pleases. So in this case, me gusta means it pleases me. That means I like it, right? So these are the endings that we use for all AR verbs if we're trying to say that the action is being done in the present tense indicative. Those would be the endings we use. Now today, we're talking about not AR verbs, but ER and IR. Those are the two that we're doing today. So the reason I want you to see the AR verbs is because ER, conjugation suffixes, are based on the AR. And the IR conjugation suffixes are based on the ER. So there's going to be changes, but there's a logical progression of what those changes are, which makes it easier to remember. So we're going to see it progress, all right? So we have, and again, all of these endings we're talking about today are in the present tense indicative. The moment you want to say something in the past tense, instead of I please, but I pleased in the past tense, then these will be different endings, okay? So just make sure you recognize these are only present tense indicative. So AR was O, as, a, amos, ais, an. Everyone say that with me. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. Again. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. 2 more times. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. Get that in your head. Ingrain it so that it's easily memorized because you use these all the time when you use verbs. Now, what are ER verbs? The endings. Well, they're the same, exactly the same as AR, except that you replace all the A's with an E. So that means the first one is an O because it's not an A, right? You're not replacing an O with an E, you're replacing A's with an E. So O, ace, A, amos, ace. Don't forget the accent. Aim. O, ace, A, amos, ace, aim. I'll give you a moment to write those down. All right, so that's an easy progression. Ir verbs have A's, Er verbs have E's. And then make sure that you say it right. So now let's say both of these together. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. Say. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. O, es, e, emos, eis, en. Again. O, as, a, amos, ais, an. O, es, e, emos, eis, en. Okay, now, Ir verbs. We have O. I want you to do this. Draw some boxes around these four. Okay? Those four are going to be identical to the ER. So these four will be the same. O, es, e, en. So the IR conjugation verbs for these spots are identical to the ER verb. The two that are not in the boot, this is called a boot because, it looks like a boot. Here's my attempt at a boot. So, this is a boot. Whenever you're gonna see this around the conjugations, just like this, on a lot of different verbs for a reason, because it comes into play with separating these four conjugations from the other two in more ways and for more reasons than simply what we're looking at here. Okay? So it's very important, it's very common to see it, and just know that it's called the boot. So, the boot. All the ones in the boot are the same as the ER verb, but the ones outside the boot function exactly like you would think with it as an with an IR verb. So, looking at these two here, amos and ais is an AR verb, amos and ace is an ER verb, and then it's emos, is. Now, there's something funny a little bit going on. In each of these, there's three vowels, or three letters, right? A, I, S, and E, I, S. And the first one is the one with the accent. In this case, if that was true, then it would have been something like this. Right? But that's unnecessary. It's redundant. So, just do one I and not two. Is that better? Yeah. All right. Any questions about which ones go where? All right, now, make sure that you understand what this chart means, okay? We have singular and plural. So these all refer to one person doing the action, because that's what we're talking about, are verbs, right? So somebody, anytime we add these endings on, somebody's doing the action. So we have singular and plural. If more than one person is doing the action, then we have it as plural. Then we also have first, second, and third. So even though these are not the same, this is singular and this is plural, they're both first person, which means it must include yourself. So if you use this one, O, it means you are doing the action. Like I am doing the action. So if you say it, then you're doing the action. If you use this one, then it's we. We are doing the action, which includes yourself, which is what makes it first person. Then we have second person, which is the term for you. So you by yourself, singular, or you all, y'all, that's plural, right? And then third person is anybody else. Third person is not just they, but think of it instead as anybody besides me and you. Okay, because there is no fourth person. There's no one after third person. So in English, we have words like I, you, he, or she, or it, we, y'all, they, that are referring to who's doing those actions. And that's the same for those. So now, let's look at different verbs as an example. If you look on page 81, you'll see it says, here, let's do on this side. Aprender. So that means it is what? AR, ER, or IR verb? ER, right, because it ends in an ER. So then the endings for the conjugations when we give it a subject are going to use these endings and not these endings. Okay? Or those endings. So if we want to say, I'm doing the action, then we take the first person singular, right here, O, and you replace the ER. So, Aprendo means I learn. Let's see, what's another? What about asistir? Asistir is an IR verb. Any guess what it means? It's a verb, so to something, right? To what? Huh? To attend. Good. As in, like, to attend to someone's needs. So, in other words, to assist them, right? Same thing. If I want to say, you are attending to your grandma, notice that it has the word after asistir. That means to. So, asistir to attend to. How would you say you or are you attending to your grandma? The first part. Your grandma would be su abuela. But how would you say are you attending? Which one up here would I use? Start with the category. AR, ER, or IR? IR, right? And which one of these 6 to ask your friend, are you attending to your grandma? Es. Exactly, es. So you replace the IR, assist, there's the root, assist, es, to abuela. Oh, that's backwards. So, asistes a tu abuela. Are you attending to your grandma? Do you guys start to see how to use these conjugations? Are there any questions about replacing the ending with the right choice? Okay, good. So, number 1 on page 81. It says, Juan abre su libro. Well, what does su libro mean? Start with that, su libro. So we have a context. Start with libro. What does libro mean? Book, right? Su, any guess what that means? Yes, his book. So Juan, something, his book. What is the word abre? Open. It comes from the verb abrir. And so if it's abrir, it's what? AR, ER, or IR? IR, which means the E is referring to this. Okay? So that would mean what? third person singular. So he does the action of opening. So Juan opens his book. Does that make sense? How to work through that? All right, good. On the next page, 82, you'll see that the conjugation endings, the suffixes, are in a chart there for ER and IR verbs. Sometimes the verbs are going to be a little different and they'll be irregular. So you should know some of those. In this case, ver. Ver is an ER verb, but it's odd because the suffix that we replace is the only part of the word that has a vowel. So technically the root would just be a V. And that's not really possible because there's no vowel, right? There's no way to tell what kind of word this is. It's just a letter. So that's part of what makes it irregular. So ver is the word to see. And the conjugations are there for you. Veo, ves, ve, vemos, ves, ven. Right, yeah. So I see, you see, he or she sees, or usted, you plural. I'm sorry, you formal. Vemos, veis, and ven. Notice that this one does not have an accent mark. Okay, all of these do. Ice, ace, is. They all have an accent mark, but this one does not, the irregular. If you remember ser, which means what? Anybody know? Another infinitive?
To be.
Yes, to be. Excellent. To be. That looks like Toby, but it's okay. It's also irregular, but it's similar. Soy, eres, es, somos, sois, son. So it's irregular, it's not the same, but some things they have in common include them both being ER. They neither has any accents. They still follow an almost pattern of OSA, right? This one is just it's just different. It's just irregular. But this one does not have an accent mark either. Good. All right, that's page 82. There's that list of verbs on page 81 that you should know. You should know what those infinitives mean, so that if you see them somewhere, or you see them conjugated, or even if you see some of them, like let's say you were trying to read a book in Spanish, okay, and you saw this word. Comprendiste. You don't know what that means because you don't know this ending. That suffix, diste. Right? It's not up here. You haven't learned that. So you don't really know what this is. It's not present tense indicative, or you would have known it because you would have seen it. But you do know what the verb is. What is that verb? To understand, exactly. So what you can do is, even if you don't know the endings to the verbs, because you haven't learned all of them yet, and there's a lot, what you can do is learn the infinitives, so that even if you don't understand exactly what they're saying, you can still understand by context and try to figure out what they're probably saying. And that's especially important when you're talking, let alone reading. Okay? All right, good. By the way, this means, did you understand? It's the past tense. All right. So let's go back to page 78. I want you to read that conversation, but before you do, I actually want to work backwards and look at the verb to go. If you'd like a picture of this, then you should take it now because I'm going to erase it. So, because I need space. And by the way, you're welcome. You can't take pictures of your book and use those on quizzes, but you can take pictures of this and print it out and use that on your quiz if you want. Okay? If that helps you. So. Everyone good? Go ahead. All right. I'm going to leave this up because we're still talking about verbs that are in the present tense indicative. And the verb that I want to talk about is an IR verb. Right? So we're looking at IR verbs. And the verb infinitive looks like this. IR. That's it. It is the ending. That's the whole thing. Ir. And it means to go. So it's very unique because normally that's the ending of the word. But in this case, it's the whole word. So it's very odd. And it means to go. So I go, you go, we go. That's what we're looking at. And the conjugations are a lot like ser, right? Soy, eres, es. Voy, vas, va, vamos, vais. Does that have an accent? Nope. Van. So I go, you go, he or she goes. Or usted va, which is you go, formal. We go, you all go. And as a reminder, I'm teaching that one because you should know all the conjugations, but we don't actually use that one in South America. If you're going to say you all do something, then you add usted, which means you, and then you use this one, va. Or you all is ustedes. So ustedes is plural, ustedes singular. Ustedes van, which means you all go. Even though van means they go, if you add the word ustedes, then it changes the meaning to you all go. And it's the formal way of saying it. And in South America, they only use this one to refer to you all. They never use this one. Although they understand what it means. They just don't use it. Okay? All right. So when talking about where you are going, in English, where you are going to, there's the preposition to. Use the verb ir, which means to go. Like the verb ser, this verb has irregular forms, which we looked at. So use the word a, the letter a. So if you look at the title at the top, it says ir plus a plus destinación. Any guess what that means? Destination. Right. So, ir, which means to go, plus the word a, plus to, or to a place, and then place, or destination. So, let's do one. The school, la escuela. La escuela is where we're going, la escuela. To, let's say we are going to school. Which one would I use? If I want to say we are going to school. Huh? Vamos. Vamos. Good. Vamos. Sorry. La escuela. La escuela. So we are going to school. If you want to say, where are you going? No, let's get to question words in a moment. If you want to say, you are going to Spanish class, vas a Yeah. Vas a la clase de español. So we've got the verb. We've got a preposition, to. We have an article, the, to the class of Spanish. All right, so now, how do you ask questions with this word? So turn the page again to 79. If you want to ask someone about where he or she is going, use the interrogative word, a dónde. What does the word dónde mean? Anyone remember? ¿Dónde? ¿De dónde estás? Or ¿de dónde eres? Sorry. ¿De dónde eres? That was one of the first question words we worked with. Where are you from? ¿De dónde eres? So ¿dónde means what? Where, right. And we said that the word a means what? What does the word to, right. So if we say a dónde as one word, and it is one word, what does that mean? To where, right. So anytime that you're going to say to where, even if you wouldn't say to in English, like if I want to, let's say Tanner's like, I hate Spanish class, I'm going to the bathroom, and I'm not asking. So then Tanner gets up, walks out the door. I can say, Tanner, in English, where are you going? I never said the word to, because in English I didn't have to. But in Spanish, you have to say, a dónde vas. You can't say dónde vas without the word a. All right? So like it says at the bottom of page 78, use the word a before your destination, or in this case, with the word dónde, so it's a new word, a dónde, even if you would not say the word to in English. So, ¿a dónde vas? Where are you going? ¿A dónde van los chicos? Where are the boys going? ¿A dónde va María después de clase? To where does Maria go after class? Después de clase. All right. The last thing is the word a. When the word a, like over here it said vas a la clase, the class. When the word a comes before la, or las, or los, all words for the, it's two different words. Okay? But if the word comes before el, then you add it together to equal al. So when you see al, it means this, a plus el. So to the, but it's one word. But it only does that. It only makes one word with the word el, not with the other words. All right. So make sure you write that down. Then there's some activities you can work on that are in my school app for your homework. But does anybody have any questions about anything we've covered so far? All right. I feel like you guys grasped it pretty well. So if you have questions, please ask me. If something is not quite making sense, then let me know. I'll come in one-on-one, help you out with it. Okay? All right. I'll leave this up. And you can work on homework together if you like.